I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and this is my review and installation of the Fox 2.0 Performance Series IFP Shock, fitting all 2007 and up JKs. These shocks are available for 1.5 to 3.5 inches of lift and 4 to 6 inches of lift, and they're sold individually as front and rear, so make sure you get the shocks that you need for your build. Today we're going to talk through the installation of these shocks, which of course is a very simple 1 out of 3 wrench install. These will just bolt directly in place of your factory shocks, and you should be able to get these installed in about a half an hour per shock or less, but we'll talk more about the install in just a second. We're also going to talk through the construction and a few of the features of these shocks. Fox is a really well-known name in the racing world, and what they were able to do is take all of that R&D from building race vehicles for years and put it into these shocks that you can buy and put on your JK. You're going to get a really comfortable ride from a Fox shock, as well as a lot of performance and a shock that's going to hold up and take a beating both on-road and off-road. Now, Fox does have a couple different levels of their shocks. They're going to all ride similarly, however, they're going to be made out of different materials, so they are going to be different strengths and hold up to varying degrees. This is the Performance Series, which is going to be a really high quality shock, very well built of high quality materials. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Now, because you are getting such a quality piece and something that's going to ride so comfortably from Fox, you are going to pay a little bit more for their shocks, especially this Performance Series, because as I said, it is one of their higher end shocks. But if you're looking for comfort level, dependability, durability, this is going to be a really nice option for you, assuming you have the budget for it. These Performance Series shocks are made of a 6061 T6 aluminum and covered in a clear anodized finish, which is opposed to some of the lower end Adventure or Evolution Series shocks from Fox, which are going to be a lesser grade aluminum material. Some of them are powder coated instead of clear anodized, and again, that is going to be a price difference for you. With any of these Fox shocks, you are going to get nitrile bushings on the bottom and the top, which are going to be both quiet and last a good long time, and you are going to get a nitrogen charged shock. Now, there are hydraulic shocks and there are nitro shocks. The nitrogen in a shock like this is there to eliminate any foaming and cavitation that you can get from working a shock very hard. A hydraulic shock doesn't have that protection, and if you're doing some high-speed off-roading or going over a lot of washboards, you're working that shock over and over, you can get some shock fade caused by that cavitation and that bubbling of the shock fluid. With a nitrogen charged shock, you're not going to get that. Now, in general, a nitro shock will ride a little bit stiffer than a hydraulic shock. However, the ride quality really comes down to the valving, and that's what Fox does really well. Again, you're going to get a very comfortable ride, but also something that's very stable on the road at speed. Bolting an aftermarket shock on your Jeep is a very simple 1 out of 3 wrench install that you can get done in about a half an hour per shock. The most difficult part about installing an aftermarket set of shocks on your Jeep is removing that factory set if you have any rust. Especially on the front upper shock nut, if you have some rust, that can definitely slow you down. That's an area that's very difficult to get to with a wrench. Oftentimes, if you have a lot of rust on there, it's easier to just put a big breaker bar on there and break the top of the shock off. That's going to be the easiest way to remove a very rusty shock. Now, in order to get ahead of any of that rust, I would recommend spraying all of your shock bolts with a good penetrating oil well before you get started with this install. So all you're going to need to do is remove those upper shock nuts up front and the single lower shock bolt in the front to get that factory shock out of the way, and then go ahead and bolt up your new shock that comes with all of the hardware, all the bushings and washers that are needed. Out back, you're going to have 2 bolts in the top at a bar pin and 1 bolt in the bottom, but again, very simple process. Remove those bolts and bolt your new shock into place. This is something anybody can do in their driveway, and it's going to have a drastic impact on the ride quality of your Jeep. These Performance Series shocks from Fox do come in at right around $130, which is about $30 more than their Evolution or their Adventure Series, which are going to be made of a lesser material. So if you're still looking for a Fox shock, you still want that Fox ride quality, and you're okay with a slightly lesser material and you want to save some money, those other options are going to be great to take a look at. And of course, there are other brands on the market that are significantly less expensive than Fox. However, I don't think you're going to get the same robust build quality or the same ride quality out of those lesser shocks. If If you have the budget for it and ride quality is important to you, I would definitely recommend taking a look at these shocks from Fox. However, if you don't have the budget or ride quality just isn't as important to you, you can certainly save some money by going with one of those less expensive shocks. So if you're looking for a replacement shock on your JK that's going to give you a great ride quality on-road, great performance off-road, and is going to stand up to a serious beating, this is going to be an excellent option for you as long as you have the budget for it. So that's my review of the Fox 2.0 Performance Series IFP shocks fitting all 2007 and up JKs that you can find right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.